suggested that I go to 2012 Patmos Way. And here we are. I am...
Yes, may I help you?
Inspector Lestrade. At your service. I'm from Scotland Yard, and I'm looking for one of the disciples of Mr. Jesus.
And which disciple is that?
A Mr. John the Apostle.
Well, you found me, sir. How may I help you?
Might I ask you a few questions?
Oh, yes, Inspector. How can I help in any way?
Well, for starters, how well do you know this Mr. Jesus first?
Practically all my life. I met Jesus the first time when I was just a teenager. Simon Peter's brother, Andrew, and I were part-time disciples of John the Baptist. Well, one day Jesus comes down to the Jordan River and John baptized Jesus. When he did, there was a loud voice from heaven saying, "This is my son, in whom am I well pleased."
What?
Yeah. You know, I know what you mean. Sort of freaked us out too. A little more than a month later, we ran into Jesus on the shores of the Sea of Galilee, and he was preaching there one morning just after my partners and I came from a long night fishing. It was really tiring. See, my brother James and I were in the fishing business with Simon Peter and his brother Andrew. Well, we hadn't caught anything all night, but Jesus told us to go back out and try again. Everybody knows you can't catch fish in Galilee during the day. But we grabbed one of our older nets we hadn't cleaned yet and went back out. When we started pulling the net, we had so many fish in the net that it almost broke. That's when we decided to follow Jesus.
Couldn't you just ask this Mr. Jesus, like, bless your nets or something so you could always catch a lot of fish?
That wasn't the point. See, Jesus said if we followed him, he would make us fishers of men.
What? Fishers of men? Seemed like that hook would hurt the mouth a bit.
We don't fish that way. It's fishing for men's hearts.
I'll take your word for it. So, Mr. the Apostle.
You can just call me John.
All right, so Mr. John, how long did you follow this Mr. Jesus?
About 3.5 years. We followed him about 3.5 years. We followed him on the earth, and that was when he was crucified.
You say he was crucified. Now what happened to his body?
We buried it in the tomb.
So his body is in a tomb?
No.
But you said you buried his body in a tomb.
I did.
Did you move his body?
No.
Then what am I supposed to believe? The dead man got up and walked out of the tomb?
Of course not, Inspector. Don't be silly. Dead men don't walk. He came back to life and walked out of the tomb.
What?
Sure, we all saw Jesus alive after he had been killed on the cross.
You all? And who would that be, Mr. John?
Well, there was us 11 closest disciples, and Mary his mother, several other Marys, and eventually there was almost 500 people who saw him alive.
So when was the last time you saw this Mr. Jesus?
It was just a few years ago. I was serving some time in a prison on the island of Patmos. That's when Jesus appeared to me, and he had me take dictation for some letters he wanted to write to the 7 churches in Turkey.
And what did he say in these letters?
He said he was coming back real soon. We should be getting ready for that.
What?
Why, yes, Inspector. I wrote it all down in my latest book called Revelations. You should read it sometime. You can order it on Amazon.com.
Nice. So, Mr. John, can you offer me any concrete proof that this Mr. Jesus actually came back from the dead? Maybe a photograph or at least a recording of his voice.
Well, how about this, Inspector? A lot of people die for the religion, right?
Yes.
But how many would die for the religion if they knew it was built on a lie?
Not that many, but there would be some.
You are correct. But how many would die for the religion knowing it was a lie, being tortured to death in horrible ways, especially when all they had to do was stop the torturers to admit that it was a lie?
I don't know of anyone who would do that.
And neither do I, Inspector. But let's look at what happened to my friends, the disciples of Jesus, after we each saw Jesus alive, after he died on the cross. That is why we all went around preaching. So what happened to them? Did they get some reward for starting their new religion? Money maybe? Fame? Power? Glory?
I don't know. You are telling the story.
Well, let me list the earthly rewards for sticking to the story that Jesus rose from the dead. Stephen, although not one of the 12, was one of the first persons to die for his belief that Jesus was alive. He was stoned to death. My brother James was next. He was beheaded. Thomas, who'd been called Doubting Thomas, didn't doubt when he was killed with a spear. Andrew, the brother of Simon Peter, was crucified. Matthew, the writer of the Gospels, was killed with a spear. Philip, the evangelist, was crucified and stoned. James, Jesus' own half-brother, who wrote the book of James, was thrown off the top of a temple. He didn't die immediately, but with both his legs broken, started praying for the forgiveness of his executioners. Then he was beaten to death. Simon Peter was crucified upside down after watching his wife be crucified in front of him. The Apostle Paul had his entire life changed when Jesus appeared to him, traveling on the road to Damascus. He preached all over Turkey, Greece, and Italy until he was beheaded for saying it near Rome. Simon the Zealot was crucified. Bartholomew was tortured so badly I can't even describe it with the children around, and then was beheaded.
And none of them ever once said they were just joking.
Not one.
You've been very helpful, Mr. John. Have a good evening, sir.
And you have a blessed evening too, sir.